the epic and grand finale to our Indonesian War for Independence series is finally here. And without further ado, I want to make sure I give special thanks to Time Ghost History and Indy Nidell for making this fantastic series. Link to the original videos down in the description below. I also have a playlist to all my Indonesian reactions as well. So if you want to see the rest of the series, consider subscribing to them, but then checking out my reactions later on. Without further ado, let's get into it.
You are the Dutch. In Europe, your nation is small in land and has 10 million citizens, but your people created a wealthy and powerful overseas empire many, many times that size. Indonesia is the jewel of that empire. But the Indonesians want independence. You have killed them by the tens of thousands to prevent that, and still they fight, still they resist. So what do you do now in 1949? You kill more of them.
Which, as we've been following this series, it's very consistent. As soon as the Dutch get an opportunity to raise the temperature, they always take it and they always raise it to an obscene level. So I am not surprised that that's how this is going to go. Okay. I'm still probably going to be shocked at what the level they're doing, but I'm no longer shocked that they're choosing that.
Welcome to the Indonesian War of Independence, a Time Ghost miniseries that follows that struggle year by year from 1945 to 1949. I'm Indy Nidell. For 4 years, the Dutch have tried to regain their former colony, lost to the Japanese during World War II. Its vast wealth and natural resources, and its enormous workforce, are invaluable to the remnants of the Dutch Empire. But during these 4 years, the Indonesians have fought a relentless guerrilla war to maintain their independence, declared, though not given, in 1945. The Dutch responded with major military campaigns, even capturing the Republican capital of Yogyakarta and the Republican leadership last year. But now, the international community is growing tired of the Dutch. The UN is pushing for the Dutch to stick to their agreements to hand over sovereignty to the Indonesian Republic. The US believes that the money they're giving to the Dutch is being wasted on a colonial war and are now threatening to cancel financial aid.
Which is, it's crazy because like the Dutch did not care. Right? Like as much as he's saying all this and we're learning this, the Dutch were all in causing as much problems, as much death, as much violence, as much damage they can do in order to get Indonesia back. So it's almost crazy that you hear all this and they're still like, you know what, we're still gonna go, we're gonna still do all this crazy. They were vile, but also in a weird way I think they were just straight up crazy at this point.
And by decisively defeating a communist revolution last year, the Indonesian Republicans have shown that they are up to the job of running their own country.
Which is crazy because I just had a conversation the other day with somebody I was talking to because they were asking me about the series, and they're asking me about you guys. And I was telling them, like, Indonesians have been fighting communism long before any of the Americans got involved with that stuff. And it's like, you would be surprised on how many countries or civilizations have been fighting it long before it was associated with America. If anything, just to be fair here, if anything, some of these countries, Indonesia included, should also be taking credit for defeating communism. I think this is one of the things where, like, I feel like America's given too much credit for that, because it's like some of these countries have been fighting it way before we ever did. So, I was kind of basically saying, like, yeah, America gets blamed for a lot of problems, which is fine. I mean, I'm just used to that. But when it comes to the credit of defeating it, I think it should be shared a little bit equally. And I think that would do a better job of helping the world understand the impact of some of these countries, and giving credit where it's due. I think it's one of those things where, like, Indonesia deserves a little bit of credit for not a little bit, but like deserves its credit for defeating communism without the US, essentially. Like, it's one of those things where I don't know. Basically, it's just a rant to say, like, I think some countries deserve more credit than they're ever given on the world stage.
Pressure from all sides is mounting on the Dutch. But to the Dutch government and representative of the Dutch crown, former Dutch PM Louis Biel, things seem like they're going just fine.
Of
They
course.
are confident that soon their former colony will be their colony once again.
It's funny because, like, I opened up when I said that I think they're straight up crazy. I think I'm honestly, at this point, I called them evil at the time because they were evil. But I have a feeling that, like, if we were to go back in time and maybe check these guys for how insane they were, I'm talking about the leadership that were pushing for the recolonization of Indonesia from the Dutch. I legit feel like maybe some of them were actually crazy. I'm just going to throw that out there, you know, because it's just, to me, at no point did it ever make logical sense to do that. They were betting way too much. They were doing too much. They were causing too many problems. And it just didn't make, like, it just didn't make any sense.
After Operation Crow, the second police actions
Second police action.
at the end of last year, the Dutch fully control Sumatra and Java, which should make their ambitions easy to realize. So at the start of this year, the Dutch established a new federal structure of 15 states, ruled by Indonesian aristocrats, loyal to the Dutch.
Okay, I was about to say, where's the catch here? That seems too good to be true. I was about to say, yes, I think we kind of learned this in the last video. But it's so funny that now I'm so skeptical of even any diplomacy that they give y'all. I say give because obviously they're like semi in control, right? At this point, it's just like, even when something sounds good, it's never true when it comes to these guys with the Dutch.
The police force is 90% made up of Dutch officers. Jails are overcrowded with Indonesian political prisoners, including guys like Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta, who we've followed since the beginning of this series. And the freedom of the press is non-existent under the Government Information Service. Once again, the Indonesians live in a police state. But the Indonesian goal of independence is far from dead. Republican leadership might be imprisoned, but the Republican spirit remains unbroken. Civil disobedience gives the Dutch a labor shortage, and in larger cities on Java and Sumatra, the Republican army carry out night attacks on them. I mean, the Dutch do not have the manpower to pacify their entire colony, which is about 50 times the size of the Netherlands in population and scattered across a gigantic archipelago.
And that's not to mention, like we learned in all these other videos, there's other there's other groups who are fighting as well, right? Where there's other smaller, parties that want their own agenda. So now the Dutch, in their own way, created some of these movements. I was going to say monsters, but these movements, and now they got to fight that movement on top of quelling the Republican nationalist movement for independence. Like, this is what I never understood. It's just they created chaos. Now they got to somehow pacify all of it. Makes no sense. And it's awful. It's just awful. All these people are dying for no reason.
Also, while the Dutch army has strong points in the cities, they don't control the suburbs nor the roads in between. In Yogyakarta, there are like 1,000 Dutch troops with Stuart tanks, armored cars, and Bren carriers, but they're only in the inner city. Outside of that, they have no control, and some places are under control of the Pemuda, armed gangs of revolutionary youth. And on January 9th, pro-Republicans attack and even penetrate into the heart of the city for a few hours. In fact, the early months of the year, all of Indonesia descends into great chaos, as many different militias, some aligned with the Republicans, some not, wreak havoc. The Dutch are not in control. In late February, the Siliwangi division of the Republican Army that fought the communists makes significant advances on West Java, and the Dutch hold on both West and East Java is slipping away.
So remember, one of y'all pointed this out. So not only did they have to beat the communists, then they have to now immediately go fight the Dutch immediately after. Well, technically fighting both at the same time, but the fact that they're like, you know what, we got to stop what we're doing, just defeat the communists, and then go back to fighting again. It's insane. The amount of having to just like climb a hill. You're essentially climbing this hill that just never ends at this point.
Fortunately for the Dutch, the Siliwangi get caught up fighting the local Islamic State that was formed there last year. But on March 1st, Republican forces...
Which we're going to take a deep dive on it. Some of you pointed out and helped really answer my last question. So if you're new to the series, I ask a lot of questions, and I really look to you guys for answers. Some of you really went on. I really love that you guys answered that. But I think to have the greater conversation on that, because there's just so much historical context and things that happen, that I think I want to do a whole separate series on that. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. I actually think a good way to send me videos so that they're not getting removed in the YouTube comments is go follow me on Instagram. I posted it in the community post, and then just DM me a video and I'll check it out. That way we can see. But definitely I want to do a whole separate deep dive. I just think there's just too many things happening right now in this time period that it's just this the only way to really give it a fair shot, because I don't want to feel like I'm missing too much. Does that make sense?
Launch a major attack on the Dutch in Yogyakarta, an attack led by a colonel named Suharto. Republican troops hold the city for 6 hours until Dutch reinforcements arrive and drive them off. After that, Dutch authorities dismiss the reality of the situation.
Of course, dude. They are so, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm taking the wrapper off this bottle. They are so, oh my goodness. It's just crazy that they just gonna deny it.
It can't be true. Neither nation's forces are supposed to be engaging in conflict, and the Dutch have a sturdy hold on Yogyakarta. Well, it is not easy, but officials eventually admit that 2,000 Republican troops momentarily toppled Dutch command of the city.
6 hours is a long time in warfare. That's a long time. Even if you don't accomplish anything, not accomplish anything. Even if you just hold it for 6 hours and you do nothing of positioning, you do nothing else, right? 6 hours is a long time in warfare time. Okay, it's still a very big deal. Okay, so yeah, it's still a great accomplishment. Even when you reduce it to the smallest level, it's still a great accomplishment. But obviously, it's a bigger accomplishment than that. And the fact that you're fighting a force that's obviously much bigger, much more well equipped, and so not only were you able to take the city, hold it for 6 hours, and then when you're driven out, you also send the message that, hey, something bigger is going on here that you can't ignore now, which also is an extra level of what you guys are trying to accomplish. So it also sends that message.
Despite defeat on the ground, this is a triumph for the Republicans, for it shows that the nationalist cause still has great strength. Furthermore, even those in favor of federalism are put off by continuing acts of Dutch brutality, like Dutch troops opening fire on small villages to suppress revolutionary activity, killing innocent Indonesians in the process. From events like that, 50,000 Indonesians die violently in this year, 1949, making it the most deadly year of the conflict. Bill is unable to present the world with the fait accompli on which he was counting. Instead, the United Nations sees the nation in chaos.
This is what's insane to me. It's almost like, how do I say this? The Dutch, when we look at the levels of violence, right? It just feels like sometimes they just don't know what to do, so they just start killing people. Does that make sense? Because they created so much of a chaotic situation. They're not even fighting, really. They're just killing people. There's a difference between fighting for a city or something like that and then just going over and killing civilians. It feels like a lot of the stuff that we're seeing sometimes from the Dutch is just straight up, you know what, we're just going to kill people because we don't know what to do. Am I the only one that sees this and feels like this is what's going on sometimes? Because I was lost trying to understand this, but I also think them, if I were to see it that way too, see them being completely lost and just killing for the sake of it, I also think that adds to the chaos and understanding the situation. Right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But But I still stand by my point that I feels like a lot of this killing is just they didn't know what to do, so they're just doing it.
The UN Security Council tells the Dutch that serious disorders have been created. The Republican government has been prevented from functioning, and a cessation of troops and hostilities have not been attained. The lack of Dutch transparency has now also placed them under intense scrutiny, and they're rapidly losing support. You can see where the UN is coming from. I mean, the Dutch are failing to comply with terms they themselves agreed upon in the Linggadjati and Renville agreements. Twice they've broken them to launch military offensives, and twice the UN had to make them cease hostilities. But the Dutch still show no interest in handing actual power over to the Republicans.
Which some of you pointed out that as much as the pressure was going on in the UN from the other to them, some of you are pointing out that like a lot of that UN pressure didn't mean anything because there was so many other parties or other countries that were like, as soon as they got the chance to go start recolonizing, took that chance. Does that make sense? And so it's like, it's kind of like the thing that like, or at least the way you guys described it kind of made me think about it was like, imagine you have, you have your pie here, right? You have you have a whole complete pie. This is the UN. Half of the UN is over here trying to recolonize and do all this crazy stuff, whereas the other half is like, no, we're trying to, stop that. And so the pressure is not 100%; it's only 50%. Does that make sense? So even though there's like the pressure of the UN, it's only really some of the UN. It's not all of it because some of it is also doing the problems, doing the thing that they're not supposed to be doing. So it's not at full capacity.
Biel says straight out in a cabinet meeting, if we leave Indonesia, the Netherlands will go bankrupt. Of course, Indonesian independence would be a big dent in the Dutch economy, but really, the colonial legacy and the traditional privilege of the Dutch has given them the idea that they are in the right here. But times have changed. India became fully independent in 1947, and the Indonesian War of Independence fits perfectly in the post-colonial era. The UN is now a forum for the thought and critique of colonial practices. Well, on January 28th, the US, China, Cuba, and Norway demand the reinstatement of the Indonesian Republican government. In Resolution 67, the Dutch and the Republicans agree to put an end to their military operations, and the Dutch consent to release political prisoners and to work towards the deadline of July 1st, 1950, as a date to hand over sovereignty to Indonesia. And yes, I'm aware that all the fighting I just talked about happens after this resolution.
It's so funny that he put I love that clarification. That's actually really funny. Like, yes, I know all the fighting's about to happen after this. This guy doesn't get enough credit. This guy's really good. I love this guy. I love Indy. He does a great job in his videos. I think he's fantastic. I don't really talk about it in the other videos, but as part of the grand finale, I definitely will just show him some love. And you guys go subscribe to him. He's really funny sometimes. Like the comments that he makes or the way he says certain things is just so hilarious. And this is a great example of that.
But this is
comedic timing is what I'm talking about.
This is the third time that the Dutch make these same kinds of promises. So the Indonesians don't trust them.
Of course.
And they are still not happy anyhow. In fact, they're defensive, and they prioritize their own economic and political interests.
Like, look at what happened. So even after the second time, they lost access to freedom of press, which was given to you guys, by the Japanese. So you guys are building all this infrastructure, and then when like the second agreement happens, you lose it. So of course, yeah, you're going to be defensive because even on paper, you lost things. So it's, crazy that they would assume that you would be going with it normally. The Dutch were delusional.
The Dutch government releases a statement that the maintenance of real freedom and order in Indonesia is a responsibility which at this moment no one else can take from us. And
they really said that. Wow. That is that is, they truly believed that they were entitled to Indonesia. It's like the definition of entitlement. Wow.
Indonesia shall be a federal union under the Dutch crown, like they've been saying for years. On March 26, the UN directs the Dutch and Indonesians to have new peace talks, and the US threatens to withdraw their financial aid to the Dutch. See, after the Republicans effectively put down the communist revolt last year, public opinion in the US has turned towards not giving general opposition to the independence movements in Asia, as Walter Lippmann writes in the...
Which is crazy because, like, this is one of those things where we talked about where, like, it's almost like it was fate, right? Because think about it. You guys are so used to fighting you communists beforehand that the one moment that you get to fight them again is when the world's watching, and then you leave the impression that you can basically take care of yourselves. We already knew that you could, but you needed to change the narrative around the Dutch. And it was like, oh, it's like imagine being like, oh, your first impression. It's like being able to control your first impression. It was basically an enemy that you were used to fighting. So, you know, it worked out like crazy. Like it lined up perfectly, which it says a lot because if you consider all the chaos going on, it's almost like, I hate to say the word miracle, but it felt like in a weird way, it was like God intervened and said, you know what? This is time. The light's going to get through there, you know? It just, to me, that's one of those moments where it's just like, it felt like fate.
Herald Tribune. On May 7th, under pressure of the UN, the Roem van Rooyen Agreement is signed. Sukarno and Hatta are released. Yogyakarta is returned to the Republicans, and the two resume their roles as president and prime minister. Hatta asks all Indonesian armed forces to cease all guerrilla activities. Both sides agree to discuss a formal transfer of power from the Dutch to the Sukarno government during the Roundtable Conference to be held in The Hague beginning August 23rd. The Dutch know by now that their military effort is not sustainable. Taking full control would require enormous financial investment. And if the Republicans continue to destroy the infrastructure, the resources, and the plantations, then the main motivation of the Dutch to retake the colony goes up in smoke. International pressure is mounting, with the US calling them out for senile and ineffectual imperialism. On top of all this,
that's putting it lightly. I think they were actually crazy. I think they were actually, the leadership over there were actually insane. Or they were just like after during World War II, they got wrecked so hard that they're, you know what, we're gonna take it out on the Indonesians. I don't know. They were entitled. They were actually crazy. There's so many other words that can describe it. But yeah.
There are now voices from home that are adding even more pressure to the Netherlands' colonial aspirations to just be abandoned. Things finally look like they're coming to a close as the Roundtable Conference begins. Representatives of the Dutch intend to hand over power to the BFO and reluctantly to the Republicans. The BFO is the Federal Consultative Assembly, set up in July to discuss the future federation of Indonesia. 15 states are represented.
Here, let me quickly hide my camera so we can look at these. Okay. You can pause the video if you want to look at these. Okay. All right, we're going back.
These states were, in fact, set up by the Dutch, as I said, and are governed by pro-Dutch aristocrats who don't really enjoy public support. Nonetheless, of 150 seats of a House of Representatives, 100 are for the BFO states and 50 for the Indonesian Republic.
Of course, but you still want to take what you can get so that you can start working on something. But still, it's incredible that the Dutch or the Netherlands just still could not release their grip.
In a Senate, 32 seats are given to the BFO and 2 to the Republicans.
Oh my God. What? Wait, what? I spoke too soon. What is this? What is this? Oh my gosh. They just can't stop. They just can't stop. And we're on the finale. And they just, to the very end, could not stop messing with you guys. They're driving me crazy. They're driving me crazy. They're literally gaslighting me. This is what it is.
The first president of the United States of Indonesia is Sukarno, with
Sukarno.
Muhammad Hatta as its first prime minister. The Dutch army will withdraw in its entirety, giving full sovereignty to the United States of Indonesia. Indonesia will inherit a debt of 4.3 billion guilders, and the Netherlands will hold on to Western New Guinea as a colony. After 4 difficult years of turmoil, the moment that the Indonesians have been fighting for has arrived. On December 21st, the Dutch signed the Indonesian Declaration of Independence. On the 27th, the Kingdom of the Netherlands unconditionally and irrevocably transfers complete sovereignty over Indonesia to the Republic of the United States of Indonesia, and thus recognizes the Republic of the United States of Indonesia as an independent and sovereign nation.
Meetbaar groot is de voldoening van een volk dat zijn vrijheid verwerkelijk ziet. Hoe immens zwaar de taak ook is die deze jonge natie zich op de schouders tilt.
In Jakarta, the Dutch flag is lowered, and in its place, the red and white Indonesian flag is raised. Sukarno moves into the palace where colonial governor-generals have lived for generations and assumes his role as president. And here we are, after 4 years of fighting, with the independence of the United States of Indonesia, which will last for less than a year. On August 17, 1950, Sukarno will form the Republic of Indonesia, unifying all states under his government, although the Dutch will stay in Western New Guinea until 1954 to show that colonialism can also be constructive.
They were just trying to clean up their image in the world. I mean, yeah, that's what is it? Guilt. I think, well, they were obviously probably still taking advantage of them being there, but I think they also were trying to, try to change the way the world perceives them. And as an American who didn't know that they were like this, makes you wonder, how much other stuff they did to kind of hide this. Or I guess not really hide this, but just not really. I guess I don't know. Did they hide it from Americans in modern day? I just think Americans need to do a better job of just even researching and learning about Southeast Asia as a whole. But I think the story of Indonesia is just so unique to any civilization in the world. And I think the thing is obviously every country and civilization is unique in their own way. But the thing about the thing that stands out to me about Indonesia is how much chaos there was, but also how many people were involved in such a short amount of time in these periods of time. Does that make sense? It felt like there was so many hands in the pot that it made it almost like I didn't know what was going to happen next, literally. And I think a lot of people back then didn't know what was going to happen next because everyone was fighting. And it was like a mini world war almost, And I think we can learn a lot from this lesson, from the story of Indonesia. Not just from the story of Indonesia, but the Indonesian people, right? And how kind Indonesians are to this day, even after all this chaos and violence. So, it's like a testament to the human spirit, but also a testament to a brighter future, regardless of your past. I'm just very grateful to learn and really devote myself to learning this because it's helped me grow as a person. It's helped me be more open-minded about things, ask better questions, but also understand that kindness always comes with a story behind it. Whether it's your story, your ancestor's story, but a good heart always has a story behind it. And that's one of the things that I've learned. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you all joining me in this series and also helping me understand and teaching me. And even sometimes correcting me when I was wrong or I accidentally said something that was said the wrong name or, I'm very grateful for everything and I'm grateful for you guys as well. And that's why at the end of every video I say I love you guys because I do I do love you guys. I love you all, you know? But anyway, let's continue the video.
I know. This episode does not end in fire and brimstone. It ends in an independent Indonesia. And despite the enormous loss of life and the horrors of the fight, the future, whatever that may hold, is wide open. This is the final episode of the Indonesian War of Independence. We are only able to do series like this thanks to the support of the Time Ghost Army. Our Time Ghost Army member of the week is Zarathustra.
Yashigo show love to Time Ghost. I think they did a fantastic job with the series and really helping me understand things, as you know. Obviously, they cover it year by year, so it really helps me get a glimpse at. Because if I just try to research it on my own, it was so chaotic that I don't think I would have been able to really understand it, because too much was happening. Again, like we talked about earlier, too much was happening in 4 years. A lot happened in 4 years. How does anybody keep up with that? Which is funny because I remember, so one of the comments was like, I don't remember the history like this. It was like, hey, maybe it was like that in class, but I'm sure it's hard to, some of this stuff might be hard to remember because there's just so much happening. So, but yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. We did talk about, we got to listen to the Freedom or Death speech on Indonesian Independence Day. So check that out in the comment, in the playlist down in the description. Let me know what we should check out next. I have an idea what we're going to check out next, but let me know. Love you guys. Check out on the next one. Bye-bye. This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you so much for subscribing and being part of my journey and allowing me to be a part of yours. Let's create new memories this 2025 on our road to 1 million subscribers. And with all that jazz out of the way, I just want to say thank you so much. I love y'all and enjoy the video.